Taking a closer look at a GoldenMate UPS rated for 1600 watts with a lithium-ion battery. Let's go. Welcome everyone. Today I'll be taking a look at this new UPS that I picked up from GoldenMate. This is their newer series, and this is actually the largest variation that they offer. This one specifically is 2000 volt amp, 1600 watts with a 460 watt-hour lithium-ion battery. Anyways, let's go over some of the specifications, some details on this thing, get hooked up to my PC, my monitors, everything like that. We'll do some testing to see, does this cleanly switch over? It does offer the clean sine wave power, which should give you a seamless transition from main power to battery power at the event that you do lose power from your circuit breaker or from your home or whatever. This should actually let you transition without any interruption to your work of anything that is hooked up to these outlets. So anyways, let's go ahead and dive in. I believe all of the GoldenMate UPSs do come with 8 surge and battery protected ports, just like these right here. And at least the new version of their UPS, I'm not sure if all of them, but at least most of them now come with these line communication ports. This is a USB, I believe, B port, kind of like the ones you would plug into a printer. They do provide the cable in the box. This will let you plug your UPS into your PC, and your PC will actually be able to see this almost like a laptop battery, and you can actually configure your power profiles to take different actions based on when you lose power and you switch to battery power right here on your ups. You can actually then have it either do a graceful shutdown after 10 minutes, you can have it shut down, do a sleep or whatever, and it all is because of this line interactive ports. I know the previous versions did not offer this, and so you were pretty much manually going to have to go and shut your computer down. This gives you a lot more versatility. It lets you see the exact percentage of your battery and a bunch of other cool features. Another thing to note, you do have I believe this is the override reset switch right here. You have a large intake or exhaust fan right here to help keep everything cooled on the inside. And we can switch it around and take a look at the front. On the larger UPSs, you do get 2 USB ports in the front. You have a USB-A and a USB-C. I believe this is for the 1000 volt amp and 1500 volt amp UPSs. I believe the smaller ones don't offer this, but you do get the display screen on all of the UPSs, which will show your line in voltage, wattage, your line out going into whatever devices are plugged in the rear. And you also have your power switch here, which is the larger button, and you have your display screen and your an alarm mute combo switch. So you hit it once, the display will come on, hit it once, it'll turn off. It does auto time off the display after a short period of time. So if you ever need to take a quick look, turn it on, it'll light back up. And if you actually lose power from your mains or whatever, and you go to your battery backup, it'll alarm. It's thankfully not a super loud alarm. It's much quieter than the previous models. And you just hold down this button for a few seconds and it'll mute that alarm until you get your power restored or whatever else method you need to go down. You have some lights right here, indicator lights if you're in battery, if it's charging, all that fun stuff, if you have some kind of error. And they do have the manual here, which displays if you get different blinky lights or whatever, it'll let you decode whatever error message you possibly have. Anyways, this thing is pretty heavy. It is crushing my leg right now. So I'm gonna actually get this thing hooked up to my computer, my monitors. I do have a relatively powerful setup, and so we'll see, can this thing let us run my system off of just the battery, and can I actually run some benchmarks, some performance benchmarks. My computer does run and pull with my monitors and everything else over 1200 watts, and we'll talk about that and what the issues I had with the 1200 watt version of the UPS, and if it will seamlessly let me transition from main to battery, battery back to main without my computer losing power or having any other possible issues. So let's go ahead and get this thing hooked up. I have 2 GoldenMate UPSs side by side. This is the 2000 volt 1600 watt variation that I'm actually going with now, and everything is plugged into this one currently. And this is the one that I am replacing, which is the 1200 watt variation. Now this one just wasn't quite up to the capacity I required for my setup. And real quick overview on my setup, I am running an AMD 7950X3D CPU, a RTX 5890 GPU. It has a all-in-one liquid cooler for the CPU, some auxiliary devices plugged in, including the stereo system. I have two monitors, an LG C5 48-inch, LG C2 48-inch, both are OLED, and then I have a TCL Roku TV of some sort that I watch TV while working. And that's pretty much most of what I have here hooked up into the UPS, including my PS5 Pro, which is actually what's being displayed on screen. It's the Matrix kind of showcase thing for, I guess, Unreal 5 or whatever it was. But yes, everything is hooked up currently to this one UPS. And if you hit the screen display / alarm mute button here, you can see it's utilizing about 900 watts and providing about 750 to 800 watts to all the devices that are hooked up. CPU is not really doing anything right now, so it's not playing any games or anything, so the wattage is pretty low. But I was seeing with this UPS, I was pulling about 1250 watts, just over anywhere between 1150 and 1250 if I had the PS5 Pro going, if I had a benchmark running. And so this thing was actually hitting the over limit mark. And I noticed even below the over limit, if I was sitting maybe 1120 to 1150 watts, I would pull the power plug back here while benchmarking in my CPU, and the computer would temporarily flicker and lose power just long enough to reboot itself. Initially, I thought I was having a problem with the UPS. Turned out my power supply, even though it was only maybe a year and a half old, power supply was not holding long enough to provide that transition time to go from main power to battery power, causing the PC to flicker. So if you go and pick up an UPS, if it's functioning properly, you should be able to let the computer transition. So by unplugging the UPS, the computer should not actually lose power, even momentarily, which will completely reboot your machine. So I noticed that was an issue. I actually removed the 1000 watt power supply in there. I put in a 1300 watt Super Flower, nice one. I actually just bought one for my son, so that's why I just bought another install here. That removed that issue. I was no longer getting that flicker. I could be gaming or whatever, remove the power, the computer would be rock steady. But another issue, I noticed if I was pushing that 1200 watt limit and I was getting up to 1150 or so, 1180, and I was running a benchmark and some other stuff, and I would pull the power plug, it wouldn't flicker, but it was somehow dropping the just enough power where it would freeze. The computer would hang up and not function properly during that transition. I spoke with GoldenMate, and they said that you really kind of want some kind of leeway there, more than just 20 or 30 watts, and suggested I go with the bigger unit, is what I did. I picked up this 1600 watt unit, hopefully so I can be running full tilt on my processor, have my, all my screens, everything going like I would normally go, and if I lose power, nothing should hang, processor shouldn't reboot. So yeah, so if you notice you have any issues, if you're say you're running 900 watts on 1200 watt UPS and you lose power and your computer still reboots, definitely take a look at your power supply. Even though my voltages all check good, sometimes the capacitors or whatever are going bad and you lose that transition time. And if you can't hold power during that transition from main to battery, battery to main, then there is probably an issue with your power supply. So replace that. Now, another thing is, you can run your UPS pretty hard, but don't run it right below the cutoff. If you're getting your system's putting out 1185 watts, you're going to want something bigger than a 1200 watt UPS. I was actually going over and hitting the over limit if I ran my PS5 Pro while benchmarking. And now I spoke with GoldenMate. They didn't give me a specific time, like how long you can go over your over limit. I was throwing it for a good minute and nothing, it didn't reboot or anything. It would just beep, and you can't mute that over limit beep. It would just beep, 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 warning you to reduce your power. So they wouldn't give me a specific length of time you can run over limit, but you don't want to be bouncing into the over limit. So make sure you size up your UPS for your full load, your worst case scenario, and then go with that. And also it's going to depend on the efficiency of your power supply, all your items. If you plan on plugging any additional units in here, make sure you have that leeway. It's like if I'm going to be plugging a phone in here to charge and whatever else. So I wanted to cover that real quick. Now I'm going to actually get this out of here. We'll do some tests with the new one, the 1600 watt, and we'll see, can I have a clean transition while benchmarking my CPU? and you know how it handles just gaming and all the other fun stuff. While also running my PS5 Pro, I'll have on the Matrix here, and we'll see what it looks like. So you can see here the perk of having that new data interface port on your UPS is you actually tell your computer that you are hooked up to a battery device. It doesn't specify specifically that it's a UPS, but just that it's on a battery, almost like a laptop or any other device that does run off of a battery. And then as you can see here, you can check out your various battery information. So this is actually telling me we're at 99% battery on the UPS. You can actually then implement your power modes and different settings based on being on a battery, off of a battery, if you're discharging your battery. And so you can actually set where your computer will gracefully shut itself down, say when you're at 20% battery. So it's definitely a huge advantage having this interface where you can actually have your computer know what to do when you lose power after some set time. If you're not at home, your computer, you know, your home loses power, your computer runs out of battery on the UPS, it just gets the rug yanked out from under it and ungracefully shuts itself down. With this, you can actually have it gracefully shut itself down after you lose power, all while running on your UPS. So cool advantage. Now go ahead and let's get some stuff running here. We'll see how the UPS performs. Here on the main monitor, I'm running a Stellar Blade. I have a kind of a showcase video, YouTube video right here on the side monitor. I have nothing really playing on my TV. This isn't hooked up to my computer. It's just, but it is running off the UPS. I have my PS5 Pro playing the Matrix in the background. You can't see it because it's not displayed on the screen right now, but it is running and doing whatever it needs to do to actually have that running. And of course, my stereo system is plugged in and on. I just have it turned way down so we don't have any distractions. And the PC is churning away. Take a look here by hitting the display screen button. It looks like I am pulling almost about 1200 watts from the wall, and I'm providing just under 1100 watts to all the devices, including my PC, the majority of it, of course, being the PC, and a little bit to the PS5 Pro. So this has a 1600 watt overhead, but I'm going to go ahead and unplug this, and we will see, does the game continue to run? Do I have any weird glitches? Will the computer reboot itself? So let's find out. I'm going to go ahead and get this office chair out of the way so I can get under the desk, and we'll see how it goes. I'm going to try holding the camera here so you can see at least the PC and everything else. And like I said, just under 1100 watts. Hopefully it's a smooth transition. Let's see. All right, screen did cut off for a split second, but PC remains stable, and I can still control everything, so I didn't drop offline, didn't freeze up. Now, of course, you can hear the alarm. Not super loud, but it also does indicate that we are on battery. See, it's pulling nothing from the wall. When it went off, it was 1148 watts, and now we are drawing 1000 watts or so to the devices. If you hit the alarm button, you hold the button down, gives you a long beep, and it should be muted. There we are. And it doesn't really tell you, you know, how much battery percentage is left or anything fun like that on your screen, or how many minutes you would have left at this current wattage. But, you know, you can get that on your computer. So everything transitions smoothly at just under 1100 watts. Everything's still running. PS5 Pro is still on. So that's a good sign. And if you want, we can drop it over here, and you can look at your power, and it says we're at 94%. Of course, I'm not sure how accurate this is, but your power draw is going to be much quicker than your 30 minutes because it's 30 minutes at 800 watts with the 1600 watt setup. And since I'm drawing you know, a good bit more than that, your power is going to go much quicker. So if you're doing some intensive gaming, you're probably going to get about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes before you're going to have to shut down on battery. So let's go ahead and get it plugged back in. Everything's going good, and you can hear it click over. Now, the screens do flip over. I think it's because it just reprocesses the HDR for some reason. So if you're not running HDR, they might not go black for a split second. TVs don't have quite the buffer as a power supply from a PC, a high-end power supply, compared to a TV power supply, which typically isn't quite as forgiving. But it didn't stay off. It actually transitioned fine. HDR flickered, and we are now sitting fine on our thing here. Now, of course, we're not quite running the full wattage here. All right, we're back in the game. Didn't lose anything. Back to pulling about 1100 watts. We're gonna go ahead and move to a benchmark. That's what I was having issues with the 1200 watt. We'll see if I have issues benchmarking and trying this with the 1600 watt. So let's hope for the best. Here we are running 3D Mark Speedway graphics test. This is their highest end, I believe, ray tracing benchmark. All I know is this thing was really thrashing my computer and pulling some really good power wattage here. All right, we are pulling nearly 1400 watts of power from the UPS, almost 1500 watts from the wall into the UPS. So it's definitely, that's including, of course, the PC, monitors, accessories, PS5 Pro, all that fun stuff. So we're about 200, 250, up to 300 maybe watts below my limit. So let's see if this thing holds up. Dropped to 500, 600 watts, and it looks like it didn't hold up. So computer didn't flicker, but I had the same issues that I did with my 1200 watt power supply, or 1200 watt UPS. The screen is at least off, it looks like. Now screen is on, but the computer lost enough power that it couldn't hold the benchmark. So keep that in mind. If you're really stressing a UPS, even if you're relatively below your power limit, you're potentially going to lose whatever you're working on. So most cases you're not going to be running benchmarks, but if you are, as noted, same exact issue I was having with my 1200 watt GoldenMate. So doesn't look like it was 1200 watt issue. It didn't look like I was getting too close to the threshold. Still having the issue where I'm not even sure what's going on. The screen's black. All my accessories have powered down, it looks like. My mouse still works. Keyboard looks like it lost. Computer looks like it's still running, but obviously it's having some issues. Yeah, the monitor is on, but the computer's just not outputting anything. Yeah, see, monitor, I turned it off and turned it back on. It's on. It's on the right HDMI signal, but it's dropped significantly on power. And but my PS5 Pro stayed online. So I'm not sure if it's something it just can't handle that big of a transition under that much of a load. Yeah, so I'll ask them, let you guys know in the comments of what they say about that. But definitely not good. I was only 1350, not even 1400 watts on 1600 watt EPS. So keep that in mind. If you're really going to be benchmarking, you're relying on benchmarking through power failures, your UPS might not survive the transition for your devices. They may lose whatever. That concludes my quick look at the GoldenMate UPS, specifically the 1600 watt, 2000 volt amp variation, with a little bit at the 1200 watt version as well, and going over some specs of the other smaller UPSs. Now, even with their top tier, biggest 1600 watt UPS and running a couple hundred watts below that limit, I've noticed if I'm benchmarking, I'm really stressing the system at 100%, removing main power does not allow for a seamless transition to battery, and the computer does shut down. Either it must be so quick that you can't even see it, but I did check out the Windows event logs and it did register an unexpected shutdown. Now, you'd think if you're under that 600 watt limit, you would be safe, but even below that, it must be spiking just enough, or I'm not within that threshold, maybe also factoring in the power supply. I guess, capacity of the power supply and its, overall power efficiency rating. Then you have to factor that in of what actual draw your power supply can pull. And so if you're trying to do some crazy benchmarking, which is probably 0.1% of the people, this might be an issue. For the majority of people, I still think these are a great UPS option. Don't be running a PS5 Pro simultaneously to benchmark your PC and then pull the power plug. It's not going to transition cleanly. You'd think it would, but it doesn't. But if I'm just gaming, running PS5 Pro, somehow going cross-eyed, looking at two screens, playing two different games on two systems, all through the same UPS, it transitioned beautifully, no issues. I could keep on going. So for the majority of people, this should be more than enough UPS with some great features. It should be 10 years of pretty much hands-free, maintenance-free service life on these things. I'm not sure if you can replace a battery. I'm sure you could with some technical know-how, but they're built not to be replaced, unlike some of the other lead-acid battery type UPSs. You might have to replace a battery after a few years. This should be at least good for 10. At that point, who knows, we might be on some kind of crazy quantum mechanics, multi-state stuff with unlimited power. I don't know, fusion reactor computers. But yeah, for me, I'm going to keep running the 1600 watt one. I am pushing 1400 plus watts with this whole setup on the extreme. I feel pretty good and confident this will be a great setup. I'm probably going to pick up their NAS version for my small NAS I have right here. That'll be good for providing some of that, because sometimes when I do lose power in my office, my NAS ungracefully shuts down, which is never good for mechanical hard drives. And I also will have my Asus router on that UPS, and I'll have it hidden somewhere between my manga books and my statues and stuff like that. But overall, customer service is pretty good. I've contacted them a few times, got some relatively quick replies back. I'm going to ask them about this transition of how it's still causing my computer to reboot. See what they say. If they let me know anything, I'll post it in the comments, because I probably have this video already up. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment, all that fun stuff. This channel is dedicated for more technical stuff, gaming, manga, comics, collectibles, and stuff like that. My main channel, Derbzilla, is automotive, garage, home stuff like that. So check out either of those channels. Check out this one. Hope to see you guys on the next video. Anyways, have a good one. See ya.